Picture a bustling Manhattan street at dusk, horns, blaring neon lights flickering and crowds rushing past. Nobody notices a pregnant woman collapse in agony by the curb. Nobody, except a young black girl named Kendra, who darts through traffic to save the stranger's life without hesitation. Little does Kendra know that this act of compassion will pull her into a storm of secrets, betrayal, and hidden motives. Because the woman she saved is no ordinary bystander. She's the wife of multimillionaire Gregory Caldwell. And when Gregory confronts Kendra with a peculiar request, both their fates spin out of control, unleashing twists no one sees coming. Kendra Pearson was just 19 years old, fresh out of high school, and living in a tiny Harlem apartment with her grandmother. She was saving every spare dollar for college, dreaming of becoming a pediatric nurse someday. Every morning before dawn, Kendra hopped the subway to Midtown, where she worked part-time at a coffee shop near Times Square. Despite the stress and exhaustion that came from juggling multiple responsibilities, Kendra's heart was always open, her spirit always generous. One evening, after finishing her shift, she decided to walk a few blocks before catching the train. She loved soaking in the city's pulsating energy. Though she could barely afford its rent, the city's soul fascinated her. It was in this moment, while crossing a busy street near the intersection of Broadway and 42nd Street, that she spotted a tall, elegant woman who looked very much pregnant. The woman was clutching her belly, trying desperately to hail a cab. Suddenly the woman's face contorted in pain. Her knees buckled. She collapsed on the sidewalk with a gasp that got lost in the city's cacophony. Instinct took over. Kendra bolted forward, weaving through honking cars. She knelt beside the woman, uncertain of what to do, but resolute in her need to help. Kendra's heart thumped as she frantically scanned the crowd for assistance. A few people slowed to gawk, but no one stopped. The pregnant woman's face went pale as she tried and failed to speak. Terrified, Kendra placed a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder, remembering some basic first aid steps from high school health class. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, her voice quivering. She checked for any obvious injuries, but the woman clutched her belly, whispering hoarsely, "Help me." The words were barely audible. In her panic, Kendra fumbled with her phone, unsure whether to call 911 or try to get a taxi first. Then it dawned on her that if the woman was going into early labor time was critical, she dialed 911, heart in her throat, her voice trembling as she relayed their location. The operator instructed her to keep the woman as calm and still as possible. Kendra followed instructions telling her, "Stay with me, okay? The ambulance is coming to keep her conscious." Kendra asked the woman simple questions. "What's your name? Can you hear me?" But the woman only moaned, perspiration beading on her forehead. That's when Kendra realized just how dire the situation was and how alone she felt in that teeming, indifferent city street. Within minutes that felt like hours, the wail of an ambulance siren cut through the thick swirl of voices and traffic. Paramedics raced out, and Kendra's knees felt weak with relief. As they took over, Kendra stayed nearby, determined not to abandon the woman. One of the paramedics glanced up, noticing Kendra's concern. "Are you a relative?" Kendra shook her head. "I just saw her collapse. I called you." They nodded and worked quickly, lifting the pregnant woman onto a stretcher. Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, and she looked directly at Kendra, lips parting as though to speak. "Thank you," she managed, squeezing Kendra's hand. Kendra felt a strange surge of emotion. She gave a small nod and a reassuring smile. "Hang in there." She wanted to climb into the ambulance with her, but she had no authority to do so. Her mind spun, unsure of her next move. After some hurried discussion among the paramedics, one of them turned to Kendra. "She's in critical distress. We need to move. Now we're headed to Mount Sinai Hospital. If you know her family or anyone, contact them." Kendra swallowed. She didn't even know the woman's name, but her gut told her she had to follow. There was no question. Kendra hopped into a taxi with the last of her tip money, instructing the driver to head straight to Mount Sinai. On the way, she tried to calm her nerves. She replayed the image of that woman's terrified eyes, how she whispered, "Thank you," in those final moments before the ambulance door closed. All Kendra wanted was to make sure she was okay, that her baby was safe. Upon arriving, she dashed into the emergency room, scanning the rows of waiting patients and frantic staff. An older nurse eyed her with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. Kendra explained, panting, "I just helped a pregnant woman who collapsed. She came in a few minutes ago. I need to know if she's all right." The nurse, whose name tag read Brenda, typed rapidly into her computer. "We just admitted a pregnant woman matching that description. She's in emergency surgery. We don't have an update on her condition yet." Kendra froze. Surgery. Had it been that bad? All sense of time vanished as she found an empty seat. She settled in her mind, swirling with worst-case scenarios. The city's bright lights and rushing crowds felt far away now. There was only the hospital's antiseptic smell, the beep of monitors, and the throb of her own anxious heart. Hours crept by. Around midnight, an obstetrician finally stepped out into the waiting area. Kendra recognized her from earlier, wearing the same lime-green scrubs, stained with flecks of fluid. The doctor brushed back a lock of hair and spoke with measured calm. "Are you family?" Kendra shook her head. "I'm not. I was the one who found her on the street. Is she okay?" There was a pause. The doctor sized her up, perhaps debating patient confidentiality. Then she offered a thin smile. "She's stable now. She went into early labor, but we managed to stop it for the time being. The baby's still under observation. She's unconscious, but we expect her to recover." Relief flooded Kendra's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "That's the best news." She closed her eyes for a moment, fighting tears. That baby had come so close to tragedy, and she felt strangely protective of a family she didn't even know. "Mom," the doctor continued carefully, "we found a phone in her purse, but there was no ID. We're hoping she'll regain consciousness soon, so we can contact her family, unless you have any information." Kendra shook her head. "I wish I did, but I'll stay for a while. Maybe I can help, or at least be here when she wakes." Kendra settled into the waiting room, using her backpack as a makeshift pillow. Brenda, the older nurse, took pity and brought her a blanket and a cup of lukewarm coffee. "Bless you for sticking around," Brenda murmured gently, patting Kendra's shoulder. Kendra nodded, eyes heavy with exhaustion, but determined to see this through. At nearly 3 a.m, a commotion stirred near the hospital's front desk. Kendra's eyes snapped open. A tall, well-dressed man in a charcoal suit stormed in, demanding information. The tension rolled off him in waves, and when he turned, Kendra recognized the face from magazines. Gregory Caldwell, the millionaire entrepreneur behind Caldwell Innovations, a tech conglomerate that had recently partnered with major Fortune 500 companies. He pressed the staff for answers. "My wife, Cassandra Caldwell. Where is she?" A nurse hurriedly brought up the records. Gregory's eyes flicked to Kendra, who'd risen from her chair. She felt an unexpected jolt of anxiety. She had heard about Gregory Caldwell on the news, read about him in Forbes. His wealth was rumored to be immense, and standing here in the fluorescent hospital lights, He looked like a man who rarely heard the word. She stepped forward, raising a tentative hand. "Excuse me, sir. Is your wife the pregnant woman brought in earlier?" Gregory locked eyes with her. "Yes. Who are you?" Kendra approached with caution. Something about Gregory's presence, his piercing stare, the rigid posture radiated both power and desperation. "My name is Kendra Pearson," she said softly. "Found your wife on the street. I helped get her to the hospital." He stood silent for a heartbeat, scanning Kendra from head to toe. Her frizzy ponytail, her simple jeans and t-shirt, her wide, concerned eyes. None of it seemed to fit into his world. Then, as if gathering his composure, Gregory exhaled. "You helped Cassandra." "Yes," Kendra repeated. "She needed immediate care." It looked like early labor. Gregory's expression was an odd mixture of gratitude and suspicion. "I got a call from the hospital staff that someone was found with her. They said, you stayed with her." Kendra nodded. "I couldn't leave her alone. I wanted to make sure she was safe." For a moment, Gregory looked shaken. "Thank you," he said, his voice tight. It sounded as though expressing gratitude wasn't something he did. Often, "Please, I need to see her." A nurse guided Gregory down the corridor. He glanced back at Kendra, a silent signal for her to follow. She hesitated, unsure if she should intrude, but that fleeting look felt like a request. She trailed behind him, bracing herself for what they might find. When they entered the dimly lit room in the maternity ward, Cassandra lay hooked to a tangle of monitors and IV lines, her belly wrapped with a fetal heart rate band. Her face was ashen, though her breathing appeared steadier. Gregory's steps faltered, and all his bravado melted away. Suddenly, he looked less like a powerful businessman and more like a terrified husband about to lose everything. He gently touched Cassandra's hand. "I'm here," he whispered. Tears glistened in his eyes, and Kendra instinctively stepped back, granting him a moment of privacy. A doctor entered, studying the monitors. "We've stabilized her," she said softly. "She was experiencing premature labor contractions, but we managed to halt them. We'll keep her here on bed rest for at least a week, maybe more. The baby's not ready to arrive yet." Gregory nodded, swallowing hard. Then he spun around to face Kendra. You saved her life. And the baby's too." Kendra felt her cheeks warm. "I just happened to be there," she replied, trying to downplay her role. Anyone would have done the same. But Gregory looked unconvinced. Not everyone would have. And I don't forget debts like this. There was something in his tone, an undercurrent that made Kendra's heart skip. Gratefulness, yes, but also a calculating edge, as if he was already turning the situation over in his mind. After the doctors finished their checks and left the room, Gregory insisted that Kendra join him in a quiet corner of the hallway. The fluorescent lighting hummed above, casting stark shadows on the cream-colored walls. He folded his arms, his suit jacket now draped over one shoulder, in a gesture of weary anxiety. "She's going to be okay, right?" he asked. Though he'd already heard the doctor's words, he seemed to need reassurance. Kendra nodded. "Yes. They say her condition is stable." Gregory let out a long breath. "Good. That's everything." He paused and rubbed his temples, tension still evident. Then he focused on Kendra. "You have no idea what this means to me, to us. I'd like to repay you, somehow." Kendra shook her head. "Please don't worry about that. I'm just glad she's safe." But Gregory was insistent. "No, I want to help you. It's not every day a stranger steps up like this in a city as big as New York, and especially in this climate." His voice trailed off. "Do you need money?" A job. Anything. Kendra felt her stomach twist. The idea of receiving handouts from a man she'd never met made her uneasy, yet she'd be lying if she said she didn't need help. College was looming, her grandmother's health bills were piling up. She hesitated, mind racing, wondering whether to accept or decline such an offer from a stranger who happened to be incredibly wealthy. The next morning, Kendra was still at the hospital, sitting in the hallway chair. Exhaustion weighed on her, but she couldn't bring herself to leave. She worried about Cassandra, and something in her gut told her that stepping away now might close a door she wasn't ready to shut. Finally, Gregory emerged from Cassandra's room, rubbing his tired eyes. He managed a small, polite smile at Kendra. "I asked the staff to arrange a visitor's pass for you, if you'd like to see her," he said. They gave her a mild sedative to keep her calm. "But she's conscious now." Kendra nodded, heart thumping. Gregory guided her inside, and there, propped against a stack of pillows, was Cassandra Caldwell. Her eyes fluttered open, taking Kendra in with a mix of gratitude and curiosity. She weakly motioned for Kendra to come closer. "Thank you," Cassandra said, in a soft, raspy voice. "I remember seeing you. Everything was spinning, and I saw your face." Kendra's breath caught in her chest. "You're welcome. I'm just glad you and the baby are all right." Gregory placed a gentle hand on his wife's shoulder. Cassandra's gaze shifted to him, and then back to Kendra. She smiled faintly. "My husband told me. We owe you. Please don't be modest about it." Kendra opened her mouth, her mind swirling with uncertain responses. She wanted to maintain her dignity, yet she couldn't deny her circumstances. Perhaps at last, fate was granting her an open door. When she arrived at her grandmother's apartment in Harlem, the cozy space felt even smaller than usual. The living room was part kitchen, part bedroom, with peeling wallpaper and a flickering overhead light. Grandma Rose, a proud woman in her 70s, with sharp eyes and silver hair, sat at the kitchen table, reading her worn Bible. "Kendra, you're back late," Grandma Rose said, with mild reproach. "You know I worry." Kendra plopped into a chair, exhaustion hitting her full force. There was an emergency. She began recounting the entire ordeal, from the moment she saw Cassandra collapse to meeting Gregory Caldwell. Her grandmother listened attentively, nodding in all the right places. When Kendra finished, Grandma Rose squeezed her hand. "You done a good thing, child. God's hand was in this. You just be careful with wealthy folks. Sometimes help ain't as free as it looks." Kendra nodded, her thoughts swirling. She wasn't sure if she wanted Gregory's help, but part of her couldn't deny that it might be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to break free from financial struggles. Still, Grandma Rose's words echoed in her head. Help isn't always free. The next day, Kendra returned to Mount Sinai, carrying a small bouquet of grocery store flowers. She found Cassandra awake. Her color improved, though her expression remained tired and pained. With a gracious smile, Cassandra accepted the flowers and placed them on a bedside table. "You're very sweet," she said, her voice quiet. "I told Gregory he should have sent a car for you." Kendra shrugged shyly. "I prefer the train." Gregory, who was pacing near the window, turned and cleared his throat. "About yesterday," he began. "I was serious about wanting to repay you, Cassandra, and I have been discussing it." Cassandra nodded, reaching for Gregory's hand. Their closeness in that moment reminded Kendra of how deeply they must love each other. Despite the obvious differences in their worlds, Cassandra's voice was gentle but firm. "We want to offer you a scholarship, full coverage for your nursing program, if you still want that. It's the least we can do, after what you did for me." Kendra's heart soared at those words. She opened her mouth, ready to say something. Anything but emotion choked her. For years she'd dreamed of wearing that white coat, of working in pediatric wards, comforting sick children, but the cost of nursing school had always been a crushing obstacle. Yet doubt gnawed at the back of her mind. Could it really be that simple? Kendra blinked, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Her gaze shifted between Cassandra's earnest eyes and Gregory's penetrating stare. I don't know what to say. She finally managed. "That's an incredible offer, but—" "Are you sure?" Gregory nodded decisively. "Consider it done. I'll have my legal team draw up the paperwork, and we'll handle the tuition directly with whatever nursing program you choose." A mixture of elation and caution filled Kendra. She never expected a reward for helping someone in need. But this scholarship could change her entire life. She would no longer have to work 2 part-time jobs while struggling through classes. She could invest her full energy into her studies. Her dream— Cassandra squeezed Kendra's hand. "I heard you stayed at the hospital all night. That's more than just a random act of kindness. It tells me we're making the right choice." Kendra smiled, tears threatening to fall. "Thank you," she whispered. "I promise I won't let you down." Still, Grandma Rose's warning lingered in her mind. The Caldwells' generosity was a blessing. But what if there were strings attached? Could a wealthy man like Gregory truly give something for nothing? She tried to ignore the uneasy flutter in her stomach, focusing instead on the promise of a brighter future. A whirlwind of changes followed in the next few weeks. Gregory's personal assistant reached out to Kendra to finalize the scholarship details, instructing her on application steps and deadlines. Overnight, Kendra felt as though she'd fallen into a fairy tale, except that the pace was almost too fast. Formal letters arrived with Caldwell Innovations letterhead, guaranteeing payment of tuition and associated fees. Meanwhile, Cassandra remained on strict bed rest. Kendra visited often, sometimes bringing a homemade dish or simply reading aloud from baby books. The bond between them deepened an unlikely friendship, formed in a sterile hospital room. Despite Kendra's gratitude, she couldn't help noticing Gregory's sporadic appearances. Sometimes he seemed kind and genuinely concerned for Cassandra's well-being. Other times he was preoccupied with phone calls, stepping away to handle urgent business. His company was preparing to sign a major deal with a global tech giant, and it consumed much of his attention. When he did speak to Kendra, it was often in clipped tones, as though he were fulfilling an obligation. A part of Kendra bristled under that reserved demeanor, but she told herself it didn't matter. She wasn't there for his approval. She was there for Cassandra and for the chance at an education she'd never thought possible. Cassandra's condition stabilized enough for her to return home, but her doctors insisted she remain on modified bed rest until her due date. Kendra accompanied her in Gregory's sleek black SUV, feeling awestruck by the gated mansion that sprawled before them on the Upper East Side. Perfectly manicured hedges, a circular driveway, and a cascading fountain hinted at Gregory's enormous wealth. Inside the mansion was a symphony of marble floors and glittering chandeliers. It felt like stepping into a different universe, one where cost was never an object, and every piece of furniture was curated for style, not practicality. Cassandra led Kendra upstairs to a bedroom that could fit Kendra's entire apartment. Despite the lavish surroundings, Cassandra looked uneasy, perhaps anxious about her precarious pregnancy. Gregory trailed behind, speaking rapidly to his assistant on a phone call. Once he hung up, he addressed Kendra, nodding toward Cassandra. "Make yourself at home," he said. If you're going to help Cassandra from time to time, I want you comfortable. Kendra blinked. Help Cassandra. Cassandra patted the bed, smiling apologetically. You're so good at keeping me calm at the hospital. I'd love if you could come by a few times each week, just until the baby's born. It's lonely here, she admitted softly. Kendra felt warmth spread through her chest. Of course, she said, I'd be happy to. Little did she know that accepting this invitation would catapult her life into a whirlwind far more complex than simple bed rest visits. Kendra's arrangement soon became a routine. On her off days from the coffee shop, she travelled to the Caldwell mansion to keep Cassandra company. They'd chat about Cassandra's favourite authors, or watch documentaries about pregnancy and child development. Sometimes Cassandra would doze off, and Kendra would roam the spacious house, marvelling at the artwork and the hush that felt almost eerie. During these visits, Gregory would either be absent or holed up in his home office. Their interactions were brief. Still, Kendra sensed a tension beneath his cool exterior, like a man juggling too many secrets. On several occasions, she overheard heated phone conversations. Behind closed doors, words like contract breach, lawsuit, and stockholders drifting through the thick mahogany door. One afternoon, Kendra found Cassandra in tears, holding her belly protectively. I can't stand the stress Gregory is under, she confessed. It's not good for the baby. He's under pressure to finalize this deal, and if anything goes wrong... She trailed off, tears glistening. Kendra tried to reassure her, offering gentle words of comfort. Privately, Kendra wondered what it must be like to live with such wealth and yet be so frightened about business deals, frightened about losing the baby, frightened about the burdens that came with high society life. She realized money wasn't a shield against fear. Perhaps the Caldwell fortune carried its own curse. One evening, while waiting for Cassandra to awaken from a nap, Kendra wandered into the library, a grand space lined with dark oak shelves. Her eyes skimmed titles by classic authors and modern thinkers. As she approached an ornate desk, she noticed several documents scattered across the surface. She didn't mean to pry, but one headline caught her attention. Caldwell Innovations. $50 million contract at risk. Her heart thudded. Was the deal collapsing? She tried to back away, but a sudden voice froze her in place. Curiosity can be dangerous, you know. She spun around to see Gregory standing in the doorway, arms folded. His expression wasn't angry, exactly more watchful. I'm sorry, she stammered. I wasn't trying to snoop. Gregory stepped forward, picking up the document and glancing at its contents. It's not a secret that my business is in a precarious spot, he said calmly. The press loves to speculate, as does the board of directors. Kendra chewed her lip. I hope everything works out. He studied her for a moment, as if debating whether to confide in her. Then he shrugged. I'm used to adversity in business. But this time, if the contract falls through, it'll hurt our reputation. And right now, Cassandra doesn't need more stress. For a split second, Kendra glimpsed something in his eyes that she might have mistaken for vulnerability. Then he closed the folder decisively and changed the subject. Cassandra should be awake soon. Shall we check on her? Days bled into weeks. The scholarship paperwork was completed, and Kendra received an acceptance letter from the New York College of Nursing, set to begin in the upcoming semester. Her excitement was tempered by a strange sense of unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that Gregory Caldwell's generosity came with unspoken expectations. She also noticed that, despite her repeated thanks, Gregory never fully dismissed the idea that Kendra owed him something. Meanwhile, Cassandra's pregnancy progressed slowly but safely. Her doctors remained vigilant, but the crisis of early labor had passed. Each time Kendra visited, Cassandra seemed more relaxed, relieved that her baby was staying put for the time being. She began preparing a nursery, ordering baby furniture, clothes, and accessories from all over the world, the mansion filled with the scent of fresh paint and the sound of workers installing plush carpeting. One late afternoon, as Kendra was about to leave, Gregory appeared in the foyer, pulling her aside. "I've been thinking," he said, voice low, "about how you can show your gratitude." Kendra stiffened. "I'm grateful, truly, if there's something I can do." He gave a small nod, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. "Let me clarify. I might need a small favor in return. Nothing to worry about right now, but when the time comes, I'll expect you to step up." Understand, unease crept over Kendra like a cold wind. She forced a smile, her heart hammering. "Of course," she whispered, not knowing what she'd just agreed to. A few weeks later, Kendra received a late-night phone call. She was drifting off to sleep when her phone buzzed. The caller ID read "unknown," and she nearly ignored it. But something made her pick up. Kendra came Gregory's tense voice on the other end. "I need you to come to the house." Now she rubbed her eyes, disoriented. "Is everything all right? Is Cassandra? It's not about Cassandra. Just come. Please." His voice sounded uncharacteristically urgent. Kendra pulled on a hoodie, and sneakers, confusion swirling. Why would Gregory call her in the dead of night if it wasn't about Cassandra? She hurried to catch a taxi, her mind churning with possibilities. When she arrived at the Caldwell mansion, security guards led her to Gregory's private study. She stepped inside, heart pounding. Gregory stood near a mahogany bar, a tumbler of whiskey in hand. Papers lay scattered across a gleaming table. Some business reports, others with bold headlines about Caldwell innovations. He looked up, face drawn. "I need a witness for something. Someone I can trust. Cassandra's resting, and I don't want to wake her. A witness?" To what Kendra asked, trembling slightly, she realized with a start that Gregory might be about to lay bare the cost of her scholarship, the real favor he needed. Gregory sat down, his drink exhaling slowly. "My company is on the verge of collapse. If I don't finalize this new contract, there are allegations of fraud. A competitor is trying to sabotage our deal, claiming we falsified certain product tests. It's a lie, but my board insists I provide a credible witness who can testify to our legitimate process." Kendra's mind reeled. "But I don't know anything about your product tests." "How can I testify?" Gregory's gaze hardened. "I only need you to confirm something simple, that you've seen me working on these legitimate processes, that you've been around my home, that you've observed no wrongdoing." Kendra's stomach lurched. "But that's not entirely true. I've been here to see Cassandra. I haven't seen your business affairs in detail." He raised a hand. "I'm not asking you to commit perjury, just to state that you've been a frequent guest in my home, that you've seen me working diligently, with no sign of wrongdoing. And if I refuse?" Kendra whispered, remembering Grandma Rose's warning. Gregory's eyes flashed cold. "Do you really want to test that I've invested a lot in you? Tuition? The scholarship? It would be a shame if it all fell through because you wouldn't help me with this small favor." A tremor shot through Kendra. She realized then that the scholarship wasn't a gift. It was leverage. Kendra stumbled out of the mansion that night, her mind spinning. She felt trapped. She had signed those scholarship documents, and the first semester's tuition was already paid. If she backed out now, how could she possibly pay that money back? She couldn't. Not unless she gave up her education. The next day she returned to the Caldwell mansion, determined to speak to Cassandra, hoping Cassandra could talk sense into her husband. But Cassandra was in her bedroom, exhausted from a rough night of contractions. Kendra couldn't bear to trouble her with business matters, not when she was struggling to keep the baby safe. Instead, Kendra found herself cornered by Gregory again. He presented her with an affidavit, a legal statement she was to sign, verifying that she had personally observed no evidence of fraudulent practices while visiting the Caldwell residence, and had witnessed Gregory Caldwell conducting legitimate business operations. His voice was a quiet threat. "I've taken good care of you, Kendra. Don't make me regret it." Tears burned Kendra's eyes. She thought of her grandmother, of her childhood dream of becoming a nurse, of the hundreds of lives she might help if she completed her education. Signing that affidavit felt like a betrayal of her integrity. But refusing to sign might destroy her future. Kendra didn't sign immediately. She begged Gregory for a few days to think it over, citing her midterm at the coffee shop as an excuse. In truth, she spent sleepless nights pacing her small apartment in Harlem, replaying every detail of the conversation. She was convinced that signing a legal statement under false pretenses could land her in serious trouble. Yet Gregory's words echoed, "I've taken good care of you. Don't make me regret it." On the third day, she tried to confide in Grandma Rose. She avoided specifics, but Grandma Rose sensed the weight on her granddaughter's heart. "Child, I told you, wealth can twist people's hearts," she said softly. "Don't let them bully you. You got to do what's right." Yet what's right wasn't clear. Without the scholarship, Kendra would likely have to drop out of the nursing program. She'd be stuck in her dead-end part-time job with no way to break free from financial struggles. And what about Cassandra? She had grown fond of the pregnant woman who was counting on a peaceful environment, free from stress. If Kendra exposed Gregory's manipulations, the fallout could devastate Cassandra. Kendra realized she was caught in the crossfire of her moral compass and her future dreams. One rainy afternoon, Kendra visited Cassandra again. Her friend looked weary, yet her eyes brightened upon seeing Kendra. "I've missed you," Cassandra said, gesturing for Kendra to sit on the bed. "Something's off with Gregory. He's more tense than usual. Is there something I should know?" Kendra weighed her words. She didn't want to add stress. But if anyone could rein in Gregory, it might be Cassandra. Kendra took a shaky breath. "He wants me to sign a statement about his business practices," Cassandra frowned. "Why would he need you to do that?" feeling her pulse pound. Kendra explained the situation. She tried to keep her voice steady as she detailed Gregory's push for her to validate his innocence regarding the fraud allegations and his veiled threats if she refused. Cassandra's eyes widened in dismay. She placed a protective hand over her belly. "I knew he was under pressure, but I didn't realize he'd stoop to this." A troubled look furrowed her brow. "I'm so sorry he involved you. This is not okay." Kendra felt a surge of relief that Cassandra understood, but also a flicker of guilt. Cassandra was mere weeks away from giving birth. She didn't need this drama. Still, Kendra's heart whispered that truth must come out sooner or later. Cassandra insisted they confront Gregory together. The next evening after dinner, they found him in his home office. The room smelled of leather and faint cigar smoke, though Gregory never seemed to actually smoke in front of others. Cassandra wobbled in one hand, braced against her protruding belly, the other clutching Kendra's arm for support. Gregory glanced up from his desk, annoyance flashing across his face. "Cassandra, "You should be resting," he said crisply. Then he fixed his gaze on Kendra, his jaw tightening. Cassandra wasted no time. "Gregory, I know you've asked Kendra to sign some affidavit. Why would you do that?" "She's just a student, for heaven's sake." Gregory's face darkened. "We're being targeted. Cassandra. The board is demanding I provide evidence that we have no skeletons in our closet. This is a small thing, a mere formality." He glowered at Kendra. "Is that how you described it? A threat?" Kendra's shoulders stiffened. "I don't want to lie, and I don't want to risk perjury," Gregory scoffed. "It's not lying, it's the truth. There is no fraud. I just need your assurance." Cassandra shook her head, frustration brimming. "Even if there's no actual fraud involving her this way, is wrong, Gregory. She shouldn't have to sign anything. Besides, you practically forced her by threatening her scholarship." Gregory's eyes narrowed. "I gave her that scholarship. She owes me." Kendra felt her heart sink. Her worst fears were confirmed in those 4 words. "She owes me." Cassandra's face went pale. She pressed a trembling hand to her belly. "Gregory, you can't treat people like pawns, especially not someone who saved your wife and unborn child." Gregory stood slamming his palms on the desk. "Don't lecture me, Cassandra. I'm doing what's necessary for this family, for our future. You think I want to drag Kendra into this? It's not my first choice, but the media is swirling with rumors. Our investors are jumpy. This affidavit could calm them." "That's all." Kendra shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. "You say it's small, but it's not small to me. It's my integrity." Gregory exhaled sharply, pacing behind his desk. For a moment, he looked torn. Then, as though steeling himself, he snapped, "Fine. If you won't sign it, I'll revoke the scholarship. I'll make sure the tuition is retracted and your enrollment cancelled. Think about that before making any rash decisions." Cassandra let out a faint cry, folding over in pain. Instantly, Kendra rushed to her side, supporting her. Gregory's eyes darted nervously to his wife. "Cassandra, are you okay?" She sucked in a breath, exhaling shakily. I'm just stressed. I need to lie down." Kendra helped her down the hall, anger boiling in her gut. That night, as she left the Caldwell mansion, she resolved to find a way out of Gregory's snare, no matter the cost. Unable to sleep, Kendra mulled over her options. She considered calling a lawyer, but legal help was expensive. She also contemplated going public, telling a journalist about Gregory's unethical pressure. But she doubted anyone would believe her word over a powerful millionaire's. She felt small against the machinery of wealth and influence. Finally, she decided to contact the only person she trusted with a legal mind, her old high school mentor, Mrs. Tamara Rodriguez, who taught civics and often volunteered at legal clinics. Kendra arranged to meet her at a quiet coffee shop in the Bronx over. Steaming cups, Kendra laid out the entire story. Mrs. Rodriguez listened intently, eyebrows knitting. "This is serious, Kendra," she said, stirring her latte. "If Gregory Caldwell is indeed pressuring you to sign a statement for legal purposes that could be construed as coercion." "But what can I do?" Kendra asked. Voice hushed. Mrs. Rodriguez tapped her nails on the table, thinking. One strategy might be to gather proof, texts, emails. Any records of him implying your scholarship hinges on signing with documentation. You could protect yourself if he tries to destroy your credibility. Kendra exhaled. Could she do that? Spy on him? Gather evidence of wrongdoing? The idea felt daunting, but as Mrs. Rodriguez pointed out, she was already in danger. She might as well be prepared. Kendra's next visit to the Caldwell mansion was laced with tension. She kept her phone's recorder active in her pocket, a makeshift attempt at collecting evidence. She hated the dishonesty of it, but reminded herself that Gregory was the one forcing her hand. Cassandra seemed weaker, complaining of increased contractions. Her doctor warned that the baby could arrive any day now. Gregory was absent, likely at the office, scrambling to salvage his deal. Late in the day, he returned in a sour mood. He found Kendra in the living room, checking on Cassandra, who dozed off on the couch, motioning for Kendra to follow. He stepped into a side room. "I want to finalize this today," he said in a low voice, eyes flicking toward the door. "Sign the affidavit and everything stays as is. Refuse and you lose the scholarship. And trust me, my lawyers will bury you in so much legal trouble, you'll wish you never stepped foot in this house." Kendra clenched her fists surreptitiously, hoping the phone in her pocket was catching every word. She responded as evenly as she could. "I understand. But you're asking me to swear. I've seen no evidence of fraud, when I haven't really seen anything at all. How is that truthful?" Gregory's jaw muscles twitched. "Don't play semantics. You owe me. And it's time you pay up." Her heart hammered. One part of her wanted to shout at him, to accuse him openly. Another part wanted to flee. Instead, she managed a shaky nod, stalling for time. That same night, as Kendra was leaving, Cassandra woke from her nap. She beckoned Kendra closer, speaking in a hushed tone. "I heard you and Gregory talking," she whispered, voice trembling with worry. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted you entangled in all this." Kendra's eyes filled with tears. "You don't have to apologize. It's not your fault." Cassandra gripped Kendra's hand. "I've been thinking. If Gregory is truly innocent, why does he need you to sign anything? He should be able to prove it on his own, Kendra." Swallowed hard, I've wondered the same. A conflicted shadow passed across Cassandra's face. "I love him, Kendra, but I fear he's hiding something. I just want this baby to be born, safe away from scandal and stress." She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'm worried about what will happen if everything falls apart." Torn by empathy, Kendra pressed Cassandra's hand. "I'm here for you," she whispered, as she left. A pang of guilt stabbed her. She was about to gather damning evidence against Cassandra's husband. Yet Cassandra herself seemed more afraid of the truth remaining hidden. Stepping into the chilly night, Kendra realized she was balancing on the edge of a cliff. The next few days would decide her fate, and possibly the fate of the Caldwell family. A series of events unfolded faster than anyone anticipated. Only 2 days later, Cassandra was rushed to the hospital in premature labor. Gregory called Kendra in a frenzy, urging her to get there. Despite her anger toward him, Kendra dropped everything and raced to Mount Sinai. Cassandra's condition was serious. Doctors prepared for an emergency C-section as the baby's heart rate was erratic. Kendra waited heart in her throat alongside Gregory. For once, Gregory looked genuinely vulnerable, pacing the corridor like a caged animal, fear etched on his face. Hours later, a doctor emerged, pulling off his surgical mask. "The baby's in the NICU but alive. Cassandra is stable, though she lost a lot of blood. We'll keep her in ICU for close monitoring." Relief and anguish flooded Kendra. She swallowed a sob, tears sliding down her cheeks. Gregory sagged against the wall, eyes closed, murmuring thanks to whatever higher power he believed in. For the moment, all business troubles were eclipsed by the primal reality of life and death. Over the next day, Kendra and Gregory took turns at Cassandra's bedside. The baby, a little girl named Aurora, fought for breath in an incubator down the hall. In those tense hours, Kendra prayed fervently for Cassandra's recovery. She'd never felt so close to heartbreak and the fragility of human life. In the following days, Cassandra's condition improved. Baby Aurora remained in NICU, but her vitals stabilized. While the medical crisis abated, another storm loomed. Reporters began circling the hospital, speculating about Caldwell Innovations' impending contract meltdown. Rumors circulated that Gregory faced an internal investigation. The board wanted to see the affidavit from Kendra, or else they'd move to suspend him. As CEO, Gregory seized the first quiet moment he found with Kendra in the hospital lounge. "Time's up," he said, eyes rimmed with exhaustion, but still hard with determination. "I need that affidavit now." Kendra's phone was in her pocket, set to record. Her heart hammered, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. "What if I say no?" He gave a mirthless laugh. "Then everything I've done for you disappears. The scholarship is cancelled. I'll make sure you can't attend any nursing school in New York. I have connections." Kendra's eyes burned with anger. "You can't do that. It's my life." Gregory leaned in, lowering his voice to a menacing hiss. "I built my empire from the ground up. Do you think I got here by playing nice? I don't lose Kendra." Just then, a nurse appeared calling Gregory's name. Cassandra was awake and asking for him. Gregory threw Kendra one last warning glance before following the nurse. Kendra stood there, trembling phone, still quietly recording his chilling words. In that moment, she knew she had the evidence to fight back. A day later, Cassandra was strong enough to hold baby Aurora for the first time. Kendra stood in the corner of the NICU, tears in her eyes, as the new mother gazed at her tiny daughter. Meanwhile, Gregory loomed nearby, an odd mixture of love and tension clouding his expression. Cassandra motioned for Kendra to join them. Kendra gently touched the baby's fragile hand through the incubator. She was overcome with emotion. Here was the little life she'd helped save from that fateful day on the street to this moment of tender victory. Yet overshadowing the miracle was Gregory's ultimatum. Late that evening, once baby Aurora was settled, Kendra stepped out to the hospital's courtyard. She dialed Mrs. Rodriguez's voice. Quavering, "I have the recordings," she said. "Gregory threatened me. I'm scared, but I can't keep letting him bully me." Mrs. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the line. "Then we proceed. I'll contact a legal advocate, friend of mine. We'll protect you. But once we go forward with this, there's no going back. You need to be prepared for the fallout." Kendra squared her shoulders, tears glistening in her eyes. She gazed up at the hospital's towering facade, remembering Cassandra's brave fight to bring Aurora into the world. She thought of her own dream to heal and care for others. "I'm ready," she whispered. "It's time to do the right thing." The next morning, Kendra sat across from Gregory in a small conference room at the hospital. He'd arranged for a notary and a lawyer from his company to finalize the affidavit. Anxiety churned in Kendra's stomach. She clasped her hands to stop them from shaking. Gregory slid the document over to her, along with a pen. His lawyer nodded. "All business. Just sign at the bottom." Kendra inhaled, remembering the phone in her bag, which held the recordings of Gregory's threats. She forced herself to stay composed. "I want to read it first," she said. Gregory's lawyer frowned, but Gregory waved him off, arms folded. "Go ahead." As Kendra skimmed the text, her hands trembled. It stated she was a regular visitor to the Caldwell residence, had observed no suspicious activity, and had no knowledge of fraudulent practices. For a fraction of a second, she considered caving. But then an image of Cassandra, pale and fragile, flashed before her eyes. She remembered the promises she'd made to herself, to become a nurse, to do no harm, to live truthfully. Setting the paper down, she lifted her gaze to Gregory, her voice steady. "I won't sign this." The lawyer blinked in confusion. Gregory's face twisted in anger. "Excuse me." Kendra swallowed. "I can't lie for you." The atmosphere in the room crackled with tension. Gregory rose from his chair, fists clenched at his sides. "Don't be a fool," he spat. "Do you realize what you're throwing away?" Kendra took a shaky breath, but forced herself to stand. "I realize I'd be throwing away my integrity. If I signed, you asked me to do this under pressure. You threatened me." His lawyer's eyes widened, glancing at Gregory. "Is that true?" Gregory scoffed. "She's twisting my words. This is—" But Kendra pressed a button on her phone. The recorded audio of Gregory's threats echoed through the room, each word crisp and clear. "I'll revoke the scholarship. Bury you in legal trouble." "I don't lose." "Kendra." Silence fell. Shock flickered across the lawyer's face. Gregory lunged for the phone, but Kendra stepped back, heart pounding. "I have copies stored in the cloud," she said, voice trembling. "This ends now." Fury radiated from Gregory. You ungrateful brat, after everything I've done." The lawyer intervened, speaking urgently. "Gregory, calm down. This could be very damaging for the company." Kendra blinked back tears. "I'm sorry it's come to this," she managed. "But I won't lie, and I won't be your hostage." She turned, leaving the conference room, tears streaming. She had no idea what would happen next, but at least she'd reclaimed her conscience. In the aftermath, Gregory Caldwell faced intense scrutiny. Journalists pounced on the scandal, portraying him as a tycoon willing to exploit anyone for personal gain. The stock of Caldwell Innovations plummeted, and shareholders demanded accountability. Gregory was stripped of his executive powers, replaced by an interim CEO who promised transparency. Lawsuits seemed inevitable. For Kendra, the scholarship was gone. The Caldwell Foundation withdrew its sponsorship. True to Gregory's threat, she received a notice from the college's financial department stating her tuition would no longer be covered. She was left with no choice but to defer her enrollment. Even if she took out loans, the sudden timing made it impossible to secure enough funds before the start of the semester. She was devastated, but not broken. Grandma Rose reminded her that moral victories often came with a price. Still, Kendra couldn't help feeling a pang of despair as she returned her nursing textbooks to the library, uncertain when she might hold them again. One glimmer of hope remained Cassandra. From her hospital bed, Cassandra contacted her family's lawyer about the possibility of setting up a small trust for Kendra. But that was a complicated legal matter, given Gregory's meltdown. Nothing was guaranteed. Meanwhile, Kendra resumed her shifts at the coffee shop, working late nights, determined to save every penny she refused to let her dream die. Weeks passed. Gregory Caldwell disappeared from the public eye. Rumors swirled that he might be planning to flee the country or face charges. Kendra avoided the tabloids, focusing on her responsibilities and on Cassandra's slow recovery at home. One chilly autumn evening, Kendra got a surprise text from Cassandra. "Can you come to the house? I have something important to tell you." Her heart pounded as she approached the familiar mansion. The gates were unmanned, an eerie sign of how life had changed. Inside the once grand foyer, felt deserted echoes of footsteps on marble floors. She found Cassandra in the living room, baby Aurora dozing in a bassinet nearby. A whirlwind of hope swept through Kendra as she deposited the check and contacted the nursing college. They agreed to reinstate her enrollment if she could provide payment for the deferred semester. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Kendra threw herself into preparing for classes, buying used textbooks and scouring academic sites for study guides. Her shifts at the coffee shop became more manageable now that she no longer needed to cover full tuition. She began daydreaming of stethoscopes and pediatric wards, imagining the day she'd wear her white coat with pride. Meanwhile, Cassandra focused on healing and raising Aurora. She distanced herself from Gregory's legal battles, though they remained married on paper for the time being. Gregory, for his part, seemed to have retreated into a silent war of legal strategy, refusing interviews and bracing for lawsuits. One evening, to Kendra's surprise, she received a carefully worded apology email from Gregory's personal account. It was short, disjointed, but it acknowledged he'd acted out of desperation. Kendra stared at the screen, feeling a swirl of anger, pity, and relief. She responded only with a polite acknowledgement that she'd received his message. She wasn't ready to forgive, nor did she believe his apology would undo the harm he'd caused. Still, life moved forward. She had a second chance, thanks to Cassandra's generosity, and she vowed never to let anyone threaten her integrity again. By the time Kendra's first semester in nursing school began, autumn leaves were swirling through the city. She threw herself into her studies, devouring textbooks about anatomy and patient care. Balancing her clinical rotations with her part-time job was challenging, but the scholarship fiasco had taught her that nothing worth having comes without struggle. Cassandra and Kendra kept in touch regularly. Sometimes Kendra would drop by to babysit Aurora so Cassandra could rest. Baby Aurora grew healthier each day, her premature lungs growing stronger under the watchful eyes of doting doctors and a relieved mother. One afternoon, as Kendra rocked Aurora to sleep, Cassandra hesitantly revealed she was filing for legal separation from Gregory. He's chosen his pride and his battles over this family, she said softly. I need to build a stable life for Aurora. I can't raise her in an environment of constant fear and manipulation. Kendra felt a pang of sadness, but also an undercurrent of relief. She knew Cassandra deserved peace. They shared a tearful hug, acknowledging that while tragedy had led them here, a new chapter of healing lay ahead. And so, amid the swirling drama, each woman found her own pathway forward. Cassandra carving out independence, Kendra forging a future in nursing, and baby Aurora, the bright symbol of hope that connected them both. A year passed. Kendra was halfway through her nursing program and thriving. She'd aced her exams, supported by Cassandra's financial gift and Grandma Rose's unwavering encouragement. The coffee shop was now just a side hustle, an echo of the life she'd once been stuck in, but no longer defined by Gregory Caldwell's fate, took a sharp turn. After an internal investigation at Caldwell Innovations, he was found to have engaged in unethical practices, though outright fraud wasn't proven. The board settled to avoid a drawn-out trial. He lost his position as CEO, paid massive fines, and retreated from the spotlight. Whispers suggested he was trying to rebuild a smaller startup, but his name carried a tarnished reputation. Sponsors and partners were wary. Meanwhile, Cassandra finalized her separation. She remained in the mansion for stability, but she worked with an attorney to secure custody arrangements for Aurora. Gregory rarely visited, and when he did, he seemed subdued, haunted by the empire he lost. Kendra continued her visits to see Cassandra and Aurora, but the tension that once hovered over the mansion was gone. No more formal dinners or forced politeness. Just two women who had weathered a storm bound by a life-and-death moment on a busy Manhattan street. Looking back, Kendra marveled at the trajectory of her life. She'd started with a simple act of kindness, saving a pregnant stranger, and ended up entangled in a millionaire's downfall. It was a lesson in how swiftly fate could twist and how integrity once compromised could unravel. Even the mightiest hard karma had come for Gregory Caldwell, stripping him of power and reputation, but perhaps, in its own twisted way, it had also set Kendra free. She'd faced the storm and come out stronger, and now, armed with her nursing degree, she was ready to move forward, to serve, to heal, to continue living by the principles that had once driven her to save a stranger on a crowded city street. Thank you for joining us on this emotional roller coaster of courage, integrity, and second chances. Kendra's journey reminds us that a single act of kindness can alter the entire course of our lives. In the face of pressure and corruption, she chose truth even at the cost of her dreams. Yet karma has a way of balancing the scales, and her genuine heart paved the way for a new destiny. From saving Cassandra on a busy Manhattan street to standing firm against Gregory's threats, Kendra's story is a testament to the power of resilience and moral conviction. If Kendra's courage resonated with you, please consider liking this video, sharing it with friends who love a good drama, and subscribing to our channel for more stories that highlight the human spirit. Together, let's celebrate hope and the triumph of doing what's right, even in the face of overwhelming odds.